everybody, what's going on? Today we are going to talk about floor layout for installing laminate flooring, ceramic tile, hardwood, any type of flooring that you may be putting down, even if it's just stick down linoleum. And you want the room to be aesthetically pleasing, you need to do a layout so that you know that you have the outside edges in an equal size or as close to that as possible. You don't want to just start with a full piece. Per se, in this type of laminate flooring, you have to start on the outside edge. You can't start in the center or an aesthetically pleasing place to get a super straight line with ceramic tile or something like that and then kind of work backwards to the walls. You can't do that with this. So you need to make sure that when you start, instead of just throwing down a full-size piece and then wind up on the other side of the room with a little 1/4 inch piece that you need to put in that's going to look really horrible. So today I'm going to show you how to do that layout, and we're going to get it done and get it done right. Hi everybody, I'm Jim Dierdorf and this is Detroit DIY. I already have a few pieces of flooring down and I have no choice but to start right here because of this baseboard heat. Now, not everyone has baseboard heat and not everyone has this issue to contend with like I do. I would have much rather started in the opposite corner of this room. The wood would go together a little bit better, but if I tried to put this piece in last, it wouldn't go in. So I have no choice but to start right here. The main thing that we want to figure out is per se like this. So I've left a 5/8 inch gap right here, and I'm going to, if I can't find anything that I like, I'm going to make my own transition strip to put in here to cover this up. I'll have room for the wood to sit on the floor and be plenty sturdy and cover all this up. So there, I will put a transition in there, whether I find one at the store that I like or make one myself. Either way, that's getting a transition. I was thinking about just putting the 1/4 inch gap like you're supposed to with the laminate flooring and caulking it, but I don't know, I didn't like the way that sounded to me, I guess, so I decided to do it this way. I think it's better in the long run than the caulk. So as you can see, my first piece has been cut, and it is cut to 4 1/8 of an inch. And what that's going to do is allow me to have the exact same size piece on the other side of the room when I finish. And so let's talk about how I came to that. So you need to measure your room and find the center of the floor. And then what I like to do is my planks are 6 1/8 of an inch wide. So I just kind of like to mark off half on each side of center, and then I can do my layout accordingly. Now, if I want my piece to end here or to end here, it doesn't matter. This gives me options so that I'm still center, whether it be the edge of the board that's center or the center of the board itself is center. It doesn't matter. So that'll give you a little option to maybe have wider strips where you finish instead of narrower. So then once you get your center marked out and you measure from the edge to the center both ways, make sure you're exactly center. As you can see, I was being a little lazy and kind of missed it, but that's all right. Measure from side to side, make sure that you have center, and then just start laying things out. Even if you don't use math to do it, you can just click some boards together and come to center and figure out what's going to leave you with the best looking outside edge. Just a better look at what I'm talking about the center line being a little bit versatile. So if you come in and you land here, that would mean that this plank would land like this in the center of the center line, or you have the option of doing it like this. and then you can do your math back, or you can snap together boards and lay them back to get your measurement, whatever you feel more comfortable with. Mia's playing with her bottle cap. So either way that you do it, and we'll talk about the math right here in a minute, how to do it with math, but either way that you do it, you want to make sure that you spend time to do this, so that, you know, like I said in the very beginning, you don't wind up with some little piece at either edge and have a big mess on your hands when you're finished. I installed a little bit more flooring just to point out the layout pattern right here. So this is another thing that you want to watch out for when you have cabinets such as I do, outside walls. You want to make sure that your layout is going to leave you with a sizable piece of wood here, not just like a little 1/4-inch strip or something that's going to break when you try to put it together. I mean, you need at least 1.5 inches, 2 inches to go around something like this. So, and then once I get this piece cut and get it in here, I have to take the dishwasher out. Unfortunately, I forgot to run it this morning and it's full of dishes. So as soon as that's done, I'm going to pop it out, cut this piece, and then I'll have to work backwards through the dishwasher opening just a little bit, but that'll be the only part I have to do that. So that's all I just wanted to say is when you're doing your layout, consider these areas as well. My cabinets are recessed just a little further back than this, so it'll even be a wider plank up under the cabinets. And the same thing will work out on the other side. When I get there, I will wind up with a wide enough piece that I don't have to worry about it being too thin. I'm going to get some more of this flooring in, then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more. I'll show you how things are going and exactly what it's looking like, and just try and get you to really understand how important layout is. When it comes to laying out the floor mathematically, the best thing that you can do is measure the width of your board, which we know these are 6 1/8. So then just add it together. 2 boards would be 12 1/4, 4 boards would be 24 1/2, and just kind of jot those measurements down. Once you find your center line in your floor, just start working off of that. 24 inches. If you want to add 6 boards together, add 8 boards together, and lay out your floor that way with mathematics, and you don't really have to snap them together. There may be some little variances, but it won't be so big that when you get to the edges, you won't be able to work it out. Also, if it works out by you coming off the center of the floor, whether you shift the board 3 inches one way, 3 inches the other way, or 3 1/16, however you want to look at it, you wind up on the outside edges with 2-inch strips or something like that. Just go ahead and shift it over. Nobody says that the board needs to run exactly down the center of the floor, or the edge of it needs to run exactly down the center of the floor. All you're trying to do is make sure that you have some nice decent sized pieces of wood on those outside edges. So if you shift it over, you know, if you're going to wind up with 2 inches on each side, just go ahead and shift it over. Have a full board on one side and a 4-inch board on the other side. It's going to look a whole lot better when the project is finished. So let's take a look. I've got this kitchen area finished. It's a little bit of a mess because I've got my laundry room all tore apart. I'm also putting the floor in there. So we'll take a look at some of my layout and where I compromised and where I didn't. So when you're doing your layout, keep in mind your transitions. So as you can see, this piece is 4 inches. This is about 4 inches to where I'm going to install the transition, and a little bit wider on the other side, as you can see behind the refrigerator right here. Just keep that in mind, because if this is only 4 inches to begin with and then you start cutting out for the transition, you're going to wind up with a narrow strip. Not that that's the worst in the world, but try to keep as much material there as you can. I laid out so that I would have a full width board running along here under the cabinets. As you can see, I have no trim back on yet, but what I did do was compromised right here, and I have a very thin strip. It's a very small area. The garbage can sits there, so it is just not big on my list. The trim will hold it in place, but if you're gonna have a thin strip like that, put it in a small area or very non-noticeable. Everything over here is kind of the same thing. This final piece right here is about 2 inches, as you can see. So I'm really happy with how that laid out. And if you're transitioning into another room, such as I've done here with the laundry room, you want to make sure that your boards line up so that it appears as though the wood continues on, even though there's going to be a transition strip over it. That's all we got for this time. Just remember that the layout of your floor, whether it be tile, laminate, vinyl, stick downs, whatever you're doing, just keep in mind that the layout is the most important part of it. Anybody can click the boards together, cut them, but the layout is extremely important. Your outside gaps, sometimes they wind up bigger than you want. There's a way to work around that. I will have an up and coming video on how to trim out a laminate floor, and I'll show you all the tips and all the pointers to get it trimmed out and make it look like $1,000,000. If you enjoyed yourself, click on one of these 2 videos. They're going to pop up right here, and we'll see you soon.